Hey everyone, Zia here. Welcome back to the English Habit. I'm so excited about today's topic.
Carter here. Me too. Today we're diving into one of my favorite subjects, food. Specifically, we're going to talk about ordering food, reading menus, and sharing some of our most memorable food experiences.
Perfect. And I have to say, ordering food in English was one of the first real-world situations where I felt nervous when I was learning the language. There's something about being hungry and trying to communicate what you want that makes everything feel more urgent.
Oh, absolutely. Plus, restaurants have their own special vocabulary and customs. It's not just about knowing the words for different foods, it's about understanding how the whole ordering process works.
Exactly. So let's start with the basics. When you walk into a restaurant, what's usually the first thing that happens?
Well, in most casual or mid-range restaurants, someone will greet you near the entrance. They might say something like, "Hi, how many in your party?" or "Table for two."
Right, and that phrase, how many in your party, confused me at first because I thought, what party? I'm just here for dinner.
Ha, yeah. In this context, party just means your group. So if someone asks, "How many in your party?" they're asking how many people are dining with you. You just say two or four or however many people you have.
And if you made a reservation, they might ask, do you have a reservation? Or, what name is the reservation under?
Good point. You'd respond with something like, "Yes, it's under Smith," or "We have a reservation for 6 o'clock."
Now, once you're seated, the server usually gives you a minute to look at the menu, right? But before we get into ordering, let's talk about reading the menu itself because that can be tricky.
Oh yes, menus can be overwhelming, especially at certain types of restaurants. You've got appetizers, entrees, sides, desserts, and sometimes the descriptions use fancy language that even native speakers don't fully understand.
Exactly. So let's break it down. At the top of most menus, you'll see appetizers or starters. These are small dishes you eat before your main course.
Common appetizers might include things like calamari, which is fried squid, or bruschetta, which is toasted bread with toppings like tomatoes and basil. You might also see mozzarella sticks, chicken wings, or a soup of the day.
And then you have your entrees, which is the main course. This is usually the biggest and most substantial part of your meal.
Right. And here's where it gets interesting. The entree section is usually divided by protein type. You might see sections for beef, chicken, seafood, pasta, or vegetarian options.
And the descriptions can get really elaborate. Instead of just saying grilled chicken, a menu might say herb marinated chicken breast, grilled to perfection, served atop a bed of wild rice with seasonal vegetables, and drizzled with a lemon butter sauce.
Wow, you just made chicken sound like a work of art.
That's the goal. But seriously, let's decode some of that restaurant language. When something is marinated, it means it's been soaked in a flavorful liquid before cooking. Grilled to perfection is just a fancy way of saying it's grilled well. And atop a bed of just means it's sitting on top of something.
And drizzled means a small amount of sauce is poured over it in a decorative way. You might also see words like sautéed, which means cooked quickly in a pan with a little oil or butter, or braised, which means cooked slowly in liquid.
Then there's seared, which means the outside is cooked at high heat to create a crispy, browned surface while the inside stays tender.
These cooking methods are really important to understand because they give you clues about the texture and flavor of the dish.
Absolutely. Now, what about sides? Those are the smaller dishes that accompany your entree. Common sides include things like French fries or fries, mashed potatoes, steamed vegetables, coleslaw, or a side salad.
And here's a useful tip. At many restaurants, especially American ones, you can sometimes substitute sides. So if your dish comes with fries, but you'd rather have a salad, you can ask, "Can I substitute the fries for a salad?" Or, "Can I get a salad instead of fries?"
That's a great point. Not all restaurants allow substitutions, but it never hurts to ask politely.
Now let's talk about the actual ordering process. After you've had a few minutes to look at the menu, your server will come back and usually ask something like, "Are you ready to order?" Or, "What can I get for you today?"
And if you need more time, it's totally fine to say, "Can we have a few more minutes?" Or, "We're not quite ready yet."
But let's say you are ready. A typical order might go like this. I'll have the grilled salmon with steamed vegetables and mashed potatoes. Simple and straightforward.
Right, and your server might follow up with some questions. For example, they might ask, "How would you like that cooked?" if you're ordering a steak or burger. The common options are rare, medium, medium well, and well done.
And those refer to how much the meat is cooked internally. Rare means it's very pink and juicy inside, while well done means it's cooked all the way through with no pink at all.
Your server might also ask about salad dressing if you order a salad. Common dressings include ranch, Italian, Caesar, balsamic vinaigrette, blue cheese, and Thousand Island.
Oh, and here's something that catches a lot of English learners off guard. In the United States, your server will often come by to refill your water or soft drink without asking. They'll just pour more water into your glass. This is normal and considered good service.
That's true. And speaking of drinks, let's talk about that for a second. Your server will usually ask what you'd like to drink early on, sometimes even before you've looked at the food menu.
Common responses might be, "I'll have water, please," or "Can I get an iced tea?" or "I'll take a Coke." If you want to specify something, you might say water with lemon or iced tea unsweetened.
And if you're at a restaurant that serves alcohol, you might order a beer, wine, or cocktail, but that's a whole different vocabulary lesson.
True. Now, let's talk about some special requests because this is where you really need to know how to communicate clearly. Maybe you have a food allergy, or you don't like certain ingredients, or you want something prepared a certain way.
The key is to be polite but clear. You might say, "I'm allergic to shellfish, so please make sure there's no cross-contamination." Or, "I don't like mushrooms. Can you leave those off?"
You can also say things like, "Can I get the dressing on the side?" which means you want the dressing served in a separate container, so you can add as much or as little as you want.
Or, "Can you make that without cheese?" Or, "Could I get extra vegetables instead of the potatoes?"
Most restaurants are very accommodating with reasonable requests, especially if you're polite about it.
Definitely. Now, let's move on to what happens during the meal. Your server will usually check in once or twice to ask, "How was everything?" Or, "How's your meal tasting?"
The standard response is something like, "Everything's great, thank you," or "It's delicious." If there actually is a problem, that's when you'd politely mention it, like, "Actually, my steak is a bit more well done than I wanted. Could we get it cooked a little less?"
Right, and most good restaurants will fix any issues without hesitation. They want you to have a good experience.
Now let's talk about finishing up. When you're done eating, your server might ask, "Are you still working on that?" if there's food left on your plate. If you're done, you can say, "No, I'm finished," or "Yes, I'm all done."
And then comes one of my favorite questions. Would you like to see the dessert menu? Or, can I interest you in some dessert?
Oh, the eternal struggle. Sometimes you're too full, but the dessert sounds so good. You might say, I'm too full, but thank you. Or, actually, yes. What do you recommend?
Or the compromise, could we see the dessert menu just to look? And then you end up ordering the chocolate lava cake anyway.
Every single time. And here's a useful phrase. If you want to share a dessert with your dining companion, you can tell the server, we'll share the cheesecake, or can we get one slice with 2 forks?
Love that. Now, eventually, you'll need to pay. You can signal that you're ready for the check by catching your server's eye and making a writing gesture in the air. Or you can simply say, could we get the check, please? Or, we're ready for the bill when you get a chance.
In the US, the words check and bill are both used, though check is more common. In the UK and other places, bill is standard.
And here's where tipping comes in, at least in the United States. The standard tip is usually 15 to 20% of your total bill before tax. 18% is pretty common for good service.
Right. And while tipping customs vary around the world, in the US, servers often rely on tips as a significant part of their income. So it's expected unless the service was truly terrible.
Some restaurants will automatically add a gratuity for large groups, usually parties of 6 or more, so always check your bill to see if the tip has already been included.
Good point. Okay, so we've covered the basics of ordering. Now I want to talk about some memorable food experiences. Do you remember the first time you tried to order food in a language you were learning?
Oh man, yes. I was in Spain and my Spanish was pretty basic. I went into this small tapas bar and I thought I was ordering patatas bravas, which is fried potatoes with spicy sauce, but I mispronounced it so badly that the waiter looked completely confused. I ended up just pointing at what someone else was eating.
Pointing is a valid strategy. It's not the most elegant, but it gets the job done. I had a similar experience in France. I tried to order a croque monsieur, which is basically a fancy grilled ham and cheese sandwich. But I was so nervous that I completely blanked on the name and just said the sandwich with ham in broken French.
At least you got the point across. But these experiences taught me that it's okay to make mistakes. Restaurant staff usually want to help you, and they're used to dealing with people who might not speak the language perfectly.
Absolutely. And you know what? Even native English speakers get confused sometimes, especially with foreign cuisine. I can't tell you how many times I've been at a Thai or Indian restaurant and had no idea what half the dishes were.
Same. That's when you rely on those descriptions on the menu, or you just ask the server, what do you recommend? Or what's your most popular dish?
Exactly. Servers usually know the menu really well and can guide you. You can also ask, is this spicy? Or, is this dish very heavy? To get more information.
Oh, here's a funny story. I went to a steakhouse once with some friends, and one of them ordered their steak black and blue, which apparently means charred on the outside but rare on the inside. I had never heard that term before, and I thought they were just making up random words.
Ah, yeah. There are all these secret menu terms that you only learn by dining out a lot, like Pittsburgh Rare, which is similar to what you just described, or 86D, which is restaurant slang for we're out of that item.
I didn't know that one. You see, even as a native speaker, I'm still learning restaurant terminology.
Another memorable experience I had was at a dim sum restaurant. If you've never been to dim sum, it's a style of Chinese cuisine where they bring around carts with small plates of food and you pick what you want. The first time I went, I had no idea how it worked, and I just kept saying yes to everything that came by. I ended up with way too much food.
Oh, no, but dim sum is amazing. The key there is to start slow and see what you like. And if you don't know what something is, you can always ask before you take it.
For sure. You know, one thing I've noticed is that food experiences are some of the best ways to connect with people and practice language. When you're sharing a meal, conversation flows more naturally.
I completely agree. And eating local food when you're in a different country or culture is such an important part of the experience. You learn so much about a place through its cuisine.
Definitely. And it forces you to step outside your comfort zone, both with the language and with trying new things. I remember being intimidated by restaurants when I was first learning English, but now it's one of my favorite things to do.
Same here. And honestly, restaurant staff are usually so patient and helpful. Even if you stumble over your words or don't know the right term for something, most people will work with you to figure it out.
That's such a good point. The fear of making mistakes can hold us back, but the reality is that everyone is just trying to communicate and have a good meal.
Exactly. And here's a final tip for our listeners. Don't be afraid to ask questions. If you don't understand something on the menu, ask. If you're not sure how to pronounce a dish, ask. If you need a recommendation, ask. Asking questions is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign that you're engaged and you want to get it right.
Well said. And remember, every native speaker was once a beginner at something, whether it's a new language or a new type of cuisine. We're all learning all the time.
Absolutely. So, to our listeners, the next time you're at a restaurant, whether it's in an English speaking country or anywhere else, embrace the experience. Make mistakes, try new things, and enjoy the food and the conversation.
And who knows, you might just discover your new favorite dish or learn a new phrase that you'll use for years to come.
Well, I think that's a great place to wrap up. Thanks for joining us on the English Habit today. We hope this episode gave you some useful language and confidence for your next restaurant experience.
And remember, the best way to improve your English is to practice it regularly, so make it a habit. Until next time, happy eating and happy learning.
See you next time.